Okay, so the smooth muscle is contracting and relaxing. ये वाली बात समझ आ गई
Yes, miss.
या नहीं आई? अच्छा, okay. Let's move on. बहुत आसान है, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है ये. Okay, so the goblet cells. We know the function of the goblet cell, but one more function is added कि we know that it's making this slimy, sticky mucus or trap करता है dust particles. लेकिन mucus का एक और भी function है. अच्छा, mucus जो है, of course, वो एक sticky layer है ना. So the thickness of the mucus is going to increase the diffusion distance for bacteria to reach the cells. हम नहीं चाहते कि the air that we are inhaling, which is rich in bacteria, because of course the air is polluted, we don't want those bacteria to enter our respiratory epithelial cells. हमें नहीं चाहिए कि वो बैक्टीरिया हमारे pseudo stratified epithelial cells में घुस जाएं. So what will the mucus do? Mucus is actually coating your entire trachea. For example, अगर ये आपका trachea है ना, ठीक है, if this is your trachea, it's a hollow pipe, ठीक है, और हम ये कह रहे हैं कि यहाँ पे, sorry, if we say that the pseudo stratified columnar epithelium के साथ बहुत सारे goblet cells हैं और mucus बना रहे हैं, तो mucus जो है ना वो यहाँ पे trachea के inner part को पूरा coat कर रहा है, ठीक है. mucus की आपको feel अगर समझनी है ना, तो you can just touch the inner part of your mouth. हमारे माउथ का इनर पार्ट, if we touch it with our finger, it's wet, and that wetness is because of mucus. Similarly, आपका ट्रेकिया का भी इनर पार्ट वेट है because of mucus. So the thickness of the mucus is actually going to increase the diffusion distance. जब diffusion distance बढ़ जाएगा, तो it will become difficult for the bacteria to penetrate your respiratory cells and they will be saved, right? Not only this, but mucus will also humidify the incoming air. आपने अक्सर देखा होगा कि कभी रात में सोते वक्त अगर हमारा मुंह खुला रह जाए, राइट, इफ आवर माउथ इज ओपन, या कभी कभी हमारी नाक बंद हो जाती है, सो वी ब्रीथ थ्रू आवर माउथ, देन वी रियलाइज कि कैसे हमारा गला खुश्क हो जाता है, राइट, अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग व्हेन वी वेक अप, ऐसे लगता है इससे गले में कांटे आ गए. सो mucus, what is it doing? It is humidifying the incoming air, thereby preventing the desiccation. Desiccation का मतलब over drying of your airways. अगर ये mucus ना होता, तो our airways would have been damaged because of over drying. So it is keeping your airways moist. Mucus is increasing the diffusion distance for the bacteria to reach the cells. Not only this, mucus also warms the incoming air. ठीक है, वो वार्म कर देता है इनकमिंग एयर को एज द म्यूकस इज एट बॉडी टेम्परेचर. अब बाहर से जैसे आजकल सर्दी है, राइट, सो द एयर दैट वी आर ब्रीदिंग मस्ट बी कोल्ड एंड आवर बॉडी टेम्परेचर इज 37 डिग्री सेल्सियस. म्यूकस क्या करता है, बाहर से आने वाली ठंडी हवा को भी नॉर्मल टेम्परेचर पे ले आता है, बिकॉज द म्यूकस इज एट आवर नॉर्मल बॉडी टेम्परेचर, राइट. एनी क्वेश्चंस?
No, miss, is clear.
नो. अच्छा, तो वी डिड कार्टिलेज, we did smooth muscle, we did cilia, and we did goblet cells. Let's move on to elastic fibers. अच्छा, elastic fibers जो हैं वो भी smooth muscle fibers के साथ साथ ही होती हैं in the submucosa. They are just like a rubber band, ठीक है. They allow the stretching and the recoil of the tubular system, ठीक है. जैसे कि एक रबर बैंड होता है ना, ऐसे करके. अब ये आपका हो गया रबर बैंड. This is the original length of the rubber band, but I can stretch it like this, है ना. मैं इसको इतना अपने हाथों से खोल के stretch कर सकती हूँ. When I'm stretching it in this direction, and जब क्योंकि उसके अंदर elastic potential energy है, तो the rubber band can spring back to its original size. So the same thing happens in your trachea. How does it happen and who's responsible for it? The elastic fibers. They allow stretching and recoil of the tubular system. Tubular system का मतलब trachea. This will enable the air to be cleaned during every breathing cycle. अगर आपका trachea, अच्छा अब आप मुझे बताओ आलिया, let's say if I ask you कि your trachea needs to stretch outwards, so when should it stretch outwards? During inhalation or exhalation?
Miss, during inhalation.
During inhalation, ताकि बहुत सारी air अंदर आ जाए, and then it should stretch inwards during
Exhalation.
exhalation, so that the air can be squeezed outwards, right? So this repetitive stretching and recoil of the tubular system, or in other words of the trachea, enables the air to be cleaned during every breathing cycle, and cleaning of the air helps in maintaining the concentration gradient for the diffusion of the gases. क्योंकि देखो हम चाहते हैं, what do we want? We want this. We want this process to go on and on and on, right? We want a two-way movement of gases, of oxygen from the alveoli to the blood, and the movement of carbon dioxide from the blood to the alveoli. इस टू वे मूवमेंट के लिए जरूरी है कि आपका ग्रेडियंट मेंटेन हो. So the one of the ways by means of which this gradient of gases is maintained is the stretching and the recoil of the elastic fibers. Elastic fibers जो है वो आपकी stretch होंगी तो ट्रेकिया खुल जाएगा, वो आपकी recoil होंगी तो ट्रेकिया कंप्रेस हो जाएगा. सो स्ट्रेचिंग रिकॉइल होता रहेगा और गैसेस की कंसंट्रेशन ग्रेडियंट जो है वो वैसे ही रहेगी और कॉन्स्टेंटली डिफ्यूजन होती रहेगी. Also remember that not only we have these elastic fibers in the trachea, but we have them in the alveoli. तो ये बहुत ही important feature है respiratory system का, right? We did cartilage, then we did cilia, smooth muscle fibers, goblet cells, elastic fibers. Now let's come to mucus glands. अब कहाँ हैं ये mucus glands? These mucus glands are in the submucosa. Let me show you. Let me go back to the diagram, which is this one. ठीक है, हमने ये कहा था कि आपके जो गॉबलेट सेल्स है ना, गॉबलेट वाले, वो इधर उधर सूडो स्ट्रैटिफाइड कॉलमनर एपिथेलियल सेल्स में है, एंड देयर जॉब इज टू मेक म्यूकस. बिसाइड्स दैट वी हैव सम गॉबलेट सेल्स इन द सबम्यूकोसा आल्सो. इधर भी हो सकते हैं, थोड़े से इधर भी हो सकते हैं. Not goblet cells, sorry, we have mucus glands in the submucosa also. What do these mucus glands do? They have exactly the same role as the goblet cells. तो समझ लो इस तरह से कि हमें एक एक्स्ट्रा यानी वो सपोर्ट मिली है in the form of mucus glands in the submucosa, which will be adding to the job of the goblet cells. Let's look at the description. The mucus glands are found in the submucosa. They also secrete mucus like the goblet cells. And again, the function of this mucus layer is to increase the diffusion distance for the pathogens so that the pathogens and the bacteria don't enter the respiratory cells, making it difficult for them to invade the respiratory epithelium. And also, just like any other mucus, it is able to trap the dust and the pathogens. Trap the dust particles and the pathogens. Just a minute. Any questions, Alia?
Miss, so the mucus glands and the goblet cells are working, they have the same function, Miss?
Same function. Any other question?
No, Miss, that.
Okay. Importance of the elastic tissue. I have made a separate slide on the importance of the elastic tissue. Why? Because this is asked in exams. So the elastic tissue, as the name indicates, वो elastic fibers के form में हमें नजर आता है. It is a component of all parts of the gas exchange system, not only the trachea, but the elastic tissue is found in the bronchus, in the bronchioles, and even in the alveoli. ठीक है, सब जगह में आपको नजर आएगा, starting from the trachea as far down as the alveoli. So this means that the entire respiratory system needs this elastic tissue. Why? For effective stretching and recoil. ये stretch और रिकॉइल ही है जिससे कि आपकी एयर अंदर आ रही है और एयर बाहर जा रही है, एंड दिस इज ऑल्सो प्लेइंग अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन द मेंटेनेंस ऑफ द कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ग्रेडियंट ऑफ द गैसेस। ठीक है, तो अगर आपके रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम में इलास्टिक टिश्यू नहीं है, it means that there is no stretching and recoil of the alveoli, and no stretching and recoil of the alveoli means that you will have difficulty in inhaling and exhaling carbon, inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide. So उससे फिर क्या होगा? You will be unable to provide clean, pure air to your body. Clean air, pure air, free of bacteria and free of foreign bodies to the alveoli. So this means, to cut short, to summarize, we can say without elastic fibers, there can be no breathing, right? It's because of these elastic fibers that enable your lungs to work like automatically inflating and deflating balloons. यानी कि हमको जब balloon फुलाना पड़ता है ना, तो हमें अपने हाथ में गुब्बारा लेके we have to blow air into it, और फिर हमें फुलाना पड़ता है, deflate करने के लिए भी उसको धागा खोलना पड़ता है. But this is, your lungs are automatically inflating and deflating balloons, and who's responsible for this? The elastic fibers. Yes. Any questions?
No, miss, this is clear.
No? अच्छा, trachea khatam ho gaya. All the different kinds of tissues have been studied. Now we'll very quickly do bronchus, bronchioles, alveoli. Alveoli tak hum khatam kar lenge aaj inshallah. Let's do bronchus. Acha, just like trachea, bronchus is also lined by pseudo stratified columnar ciliated epithelium. Bronchus के पास भी goblet cells हैं. Bronchus also has cartilage, but here comes the difference. The cartilage in the bronchus is not found in the form of a continuous layer. It is found in the form of irregular blocks or patches of cartilage. I'll show you how they look like. Smooth muscle fibers are also present. Elastic fibers are also present. अब ये देखो. This is the transverse section of a bronchus, not a trachea. तो अगर हम इसको गौर से देखें, इसके पास वो सारे layers हैं. Like, it has this pseudo stratified columnar ciliated epithelium. ये पूरा आपका epithelium है. अब ये इतना high power diagram नहीं है, लेकिन if this was, then you would have been able to see the cilia also. इसके पास भी इधर उधर goblet cells हैं. This also has smooth muscle fibers and elastic fibers. ये सारे. It also has blood vessels, mucus glands in the submucosa. सब कुछ है इसके पास. इसके पास cartilage भी है, but the cartilage is not in the form of a C shape. अगर ट्रेकिया होता तो ऐसे होता cartilage. ठीक है, इसमें क्या है cartilage? Irregular pieces of cartilage. One piece of cartilage, another piece, another piece. So if you see cartilage that is shown to be seen as irregular blocks, then it is not trachea, it is bronchus. Yes, सबसे, this is the only differentiating feature between the trachea and the bronchus. इसी से ही आपको distinguish करना है exam में अगर आपको diagram दिया जाता है. Right? Any
Okay.
questions, Alia? No?
No, miss, it's okay.
No? Same features हैं, बस only the cartilage is formed in the is present in the form of irregular blocks. ठीक है? अच्छा, let's move on to bronchioles. अच्छा, I am sharing the screen. You can see the various features of bronchioles. You read it, and then I will discuss with you. And you, once you are done reading, then you tell me what are the differences between a bronchus and a bronchiole. Yes, Alia. Are you there?
Yes, miss. Miss, I'm done
Acha.
reading.
Okay. Acha, in case of a bronchiole, does it have a pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium? A bronchiole?
Yes, miss, it does.
Does it have goblet cells?
Yes, miss.
Very few. Does it have cartilage?
No, miss, no cutting.
No. And does it have smooth muscle and elastic fibers?
Yes, miss.
Yes. Look, these are the bronchioles. Bronchioles बड़ी fine branches होती हैं, तो इतनी पतली पतली fine branches में कैसे आएगा cartilage? Cartilage तो बड़ा सख्त सा होता है, right? So these are the bronchioles, right? The second last bronchiole is a terminal bronchiole. Then you have the respiratory bronchiole. उसके बाद आपके आते हैं alveoli. ठीक है? So it has everything. ठीक है? Pseudostratified columnar epithelial cell है, smooth muscle cell, elastic cell, goblet cells are also present, but cartilage is not present. This is how a bronchiole will look like. ये देखो, ये जरा बेहतर picture है. So this is the pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium. ठीक? Smooth muscle fibers, elastic fibers, no cartilage at all, a narrow lumen. ठीक है? So this is a bronchiole. Moving on to alveoli now. ठीक है? सबसे ज्यादा इसी पे ही सवाल आते हैं. Alveoli or air sacs, they are the places where gas exchange takes place. ठीक है? And they are made up of flattened, squashed, squamous epithelial cell. This I had already shown to you that day when I was having a class with you on this diagram. ये रहा. Remember, I told you that you can see some cells which have been colored in red and some cells which have been colored in yellow. तो आप मुझे बताओ आलिया, इसमें से alveolar epithelial cells कौन से हैं? The yellow ones or the red ones?
Miss, the yellow ones?
The yellow ones. So flattened, squashed epithelial cells, very thin. This entire layer, जो पूरा layer ही है, ये one cell thick है, बहुत thin है, right? And these are the alveolar epithelial cells. Let's go back to the description. अब हम इसकी detail में जा रहे हैं, right? अच्छा. Alveoli are lined by squamous flattened epithelial cells. Another name of these cells is type 1 pneumocytes. क्या क्या नहीं है इसके अंदर? It doesn't have cartilage. It doesn't have goblet cells. No smooth muscle cells. No cilia. कुछ भी नहीं है इसके पास. The only thing which alveoli have is elastin. Elastin है. ठीक है? Elastin in the alveoli, again, जहां भी elastin होगा या elastic fibers होंगी, they will allow that structure to stretch and recoil. So this means one tissue which is found in almost all parts of the respiratory system is the elastic tissue. It allows successful stretching and recoil of the entire respiratory system. क्योंकि वो जरूरी है सांस लेने के लिए, right? And this will not only allow successful stretching and recoil, it will allow the air to be cleaned every time. It is going to play a role in the maintenance of the concentration gradient of the gases. ठीक है, तो ये बहुत जरूरी है. So the alveoli are lined by squamous epithelial cells. Another name of the squamous epithelial cell is type 1 pneumocyte. अच्छा, क्यों हम इनको टाइप 1 न्यूमोसाइट कहते हैं? क्योंकि टाइप 1 न्यूमोसाइट के अलावा there is another kind of a pneumocyte inside the alveoli which is known as type 2. Type 2 जो है ना, उसकी खास बात ये है कि it produces a substance which is known as surfactant. ये एक moist substance होता है, right? It is a mixture of phospholipids, and the function of this substance is that it reduces the surface tension of the alveoli, preventing its collapse. Acha, you must have heard कि किसी का कोई premature baby पैदा हुआ है, right? So when premature babies are born, they are kept in incubators. They are born before 9 months of age. Like 7 महीने पे पैदा हो जाता है, 6 महीने पे पैदा हो जाता है. So what's the problem with these babies? That their lungs haven't matured. Lung mature नहीं होने का मतलब यह है कि their type 2 pneumocytes are not matured enough to make sufficient amount of surfactant. So there is a risk in these babies that when they breathe naturally or normally, their alveoli might collapse and they might go into a respiratory failure. They might die. तो इसलिए इनको सपोर्ट दी जाती है इन बच्चों को, एंड दे आर प्लेस्ड इन incubators and they are given oxygen and some other form of respiratory support till they are mature enough and till their lungs are mature enough to make their own surfactant. And which cell is responsible for making the surfactant? It is type 2 pneumocytes. जी आलिया, ये बात समझ आ रही है?
Miss, I didn't get this last part about the surfactants.
Look, the alveolus, this is the alveolus, right? जो alveoli के जो main cells है ना, they are the type 1 pneumocytes. Besides these type 1 pneumocytes, the alveoli also has type 2 pneumocytes. The job of type 2 pneumocytes is that they make a liquid, and the name of that liquid is surfactant. Surfactant. ठीक है, ये एक लिक्विड होता है, एक सब्सटेंस होता है. अब ये alveoli के cells बनाते हैं. This substance, it covers the surface of the alveoli and prevents its collapse. ठीक है. अच्छा, हम सबके अंदर भी हैं ये. Now when a baby is born premature, कभी premature babies के बारे में सुना है?
Yes, miss.
They, so a normal baby should be completing the 9 months of pregnancy time. Sometimes they are born before that. So what happens is that we keep those babies in incubators because they are not able to breathe normally. वो क्यों नहीं breathe कर पाते? Because their type 2 pneumocytes are not mature enough to produce sufficient surfactant. Surfactant reduces the surface tension on the surface of the alveoli. इस लिक्विड की वजह से alveoli या इस सब्सटेंस की वजह से alveoli collapse नहीं होंगे, right? And if anybody's lung is not producing enough surfactant, there is a danger of the collapse of the alveoli. If your alveoli collapse, तो क्या हो जाएगा? आप ब्रीथ ही नहीं कर पाओगे क्योंकि gaseous exchange हो ही alveoli पे रही है. अब समझ आ रही है बात?
Okay, miss.
Even if you haven't understood, you can tell me. I'll explain it to you once again.
It's clear, miss. Understood.
Clear? Acha, look. Now coming to, and I think only the time is up, but I'll just complete this slide. Do you have a class?
Oh, yes, miss. I have a class.
You have a class. Okay. So then we'll discuss it inshallah next time, right?
Okay, miss.
Allah Hafiz.
Okay, thank you, miss. Allah Hafiz.